You have a copy of the minutes for those online. They were distributed very early this morning. Um, Questions or omissions on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye or raise your hand or something.
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. What I propose is that we, I don't know whether you call it a modification of the agenda, but we agree that when the town manager joins by Zoom at around 10 o'clock, that we just, wherever we are in the agenda, will shift to him finishing up that one thought. Okay, I'll take that as a general consensus.
Yeah.
Okay, we're up to you.
All right, so in terms of human services, just so everybody knows, we are doing a warm and cozy drive for everybody in town, but also the seniors. And so again, this year, I think we did it first year, last year maybe. And so we do have some people getting some donations, things like that. So if anybody's in need, send them, I guess, human services way, or to Jess and she'll help. If you know of any.
Maybe you could twist that just a little bit. There's nobody on that side and.
That way we get everyone.
Jess is trying to blot, so she's not.
Uh-huh.
I can see how she is now. Tilting, Jess, no, this is just my spot. See, and so we're doing that. We also have other programs, for everybody who's needing energy assistance. And some other, programs. Our ARPA funds are coming to an end at the end of this year. So if people are low income and need some additional assistance, have them reach out. ASAP, we can do like fuel and things like that for heating, and electric costs. I think that's the basics for this group. I don't think there's anything, except I think of something else. I'll let you guys know, but.
How do you get the information for the energy assistance out?
All we do right now is push it out as many places as we can. So Margaret sent it out in her townwide newsletter in October. I had it posted at Celebrate Mansfield. And we post it on our website, like our Facebook page and our website. But that's really it that we do right now. Access Agency also, we partner with them, and so we do the energy assistance applications for it, like in collaboration with them, let's call it, but we do them here since a lot of people are comfortable, it's closer to come here. And so we do them here and we serve as like a little intake site. And so a lot of people know to call Access Agency and they can refer here and get an appointment sooner, typically, Stephen.
Now, do you have access to the people that are currently?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you can go out to that.
Yeah, we've already had probably about 20 people come through our office. And so we have a bunch of people that already know that it happens here. We did, I think it was 37 applications last year, so I'm hoping that we can continue to do more. We were just late, getting everything signed off as needed for the agreement.
Question for the warm and cozy, are you taking donation?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some people donating already, and they're kind of looking to us for like what we're needing. So if you have particular needs that you think people would want or like, then let us know. Thinking about things like thermal undergarments, things like that. Yeah.
Where they got that from?
Let's just drop it anywhere in the center for now, and then Jeff
Drop it
will
out
figure
here?
it out. Yeah, this location.
What's the cutoff date?
Oh,
You have one?
yeah. I mean, just winter time, so.
Oh, okay, winter months.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna start wanting to get their stuff together now,
Yeah.
so, but, yeah, I don't think we'll have an end date to, unless we are overwhelmed with supply.
Is it age related or where's the?
We have some people donating just to seniors, to low-income seniors right now, but we're just doing low-income families too as well, like we're doing both, yeah. Yeah.
And that's a percentage of fuel or? do you
For the
cover-
fuel, The fuel is based on income and it goes up to, I'm gonna give you a rough estimate and I'm not exactly accurate. I wanna say it's about a little over 500 at the most that you can get and about 200 at the least. And it's based off of your income where you sit, from, I wanna say 200% of the. Maybe a little less than that of the federal poverty, all the way up to 60% of the state adjusted. Median. So it just varies based off. So you bring like, we have a whole list of things that you have to bring if you want to see if you qualify. We also have that as well, you know, your income. Okay.
I wouldn't extend my anything less. Okay,
So I moved on camera and now you're not on camera. It's all right. Well, you want everybody to be on camera.
How come I get to be on camera and you're still not?
Oh, Jessica moved off. Yeah, there we go. I'll forget it. Just wanna, everybody should be warm and cozy.
Yeah.
Warm and cozy.
So at the senior center, we actually have sort of playing off of that or contributing to that as well. We have a yarnathon that is going to be happening variable times during that last week of November, where people can come in and craft hats and scarves that we are actually providing the supplies for. We have a large amount of yarn. We also have a ton of knitting needles and crochet hooks. If people want to come in and do that, if you don't know how to crochet or knit, we will have their round knitting loom, or that's at least some of the ones that I know that we're getting. So that the knitting loom is super easy, like anybody can do it. And yeah, they're actually really easy.
Hats.
Yeah, hats, super easy. Well, then you'll just have to actually knit.
You know, years and years ago, Gromere tried to teach me to knit or crochet.
Yeah.
I have the title of the world's longest chain stitch. That's it.
Well, that might be a great start, right?
Yeah, but it's real thin. So,
Yeah, so that's our goal is to have people come in as an activity, just social connections with other people, and at the same time providing, you know, warm things for other people. We're also hoping to maybe get some of the teen and youth groups that we work with to also provide some assistance in that, and maybe working with the looms or just adding pom-poms. We're not really sure yet. We haven't figured that all out yet, but sort of intergenerational. This coming Saturday, we are at the Boo Bash, or the Trunk or Treat in downtown Stores. We will be creating our decorations this afternoon. So people want to come and provide their creative spark to our haunted house theme, which was a theme that was we put in a hat, and the people at lunch one day voted on that it was going to be a haunted house theme. So that was voted on by the seniors at lunch. So we'd love to have you. And then we also are looking for people who want to come and hand out candy on Saturday.
What time is that? I'm sorry.
Saturday from 3 to 5 and down. Yeah. So if anybody is looking to go with us, we do have a driver that can provide transportation. We just ask that people sign up, hopefully no later than tomorrow, so we can decide which vehicle we're actually taking over with us to decorate. And then other things happening in November, we have the Veterans Day celebration happening on November 8th, and the senior center will be closed except for that Veterans Day celebration on that day. Anything else gonna happen?
November 9th, there is a multi-town event in Ashford for veterans. It is Ashford, Wellington, Mansfield, Union, and Eastford, and it's by the Ashford Senior Center. They are specifically identifying Korean War era vets, so every year they're doing a different group. So this year it's Korean War era vets with the VFW, I think it's post 948, I can't remember, from Wellington. At this point next year, in November, Nancy will be hosting it. And we'll be doing Vietnam era vets. And recognizing them in particular. It's for all vets, but they're trying to kind of group people together. which is especially recognized, so. I will be putting together, I think, a work group of some sort in December, so if you know anybody that might be interested, send them my way and taking them small little pieces. More hands, less work for everybody, so, but it'll be a big event, a few hundred people,
So do you want Korean War vets? to
This
help
year, no,
Just
no,
any vets?
no, just anybody who wants to help plan something for that for next year. I'll be putting something together and see if there's anybody who wants to be a part of it.
Well, and of
This year
course-
it's all done. Yeah.
And of course, we have a few vets.
Okay, yeah, so send them my way if you're interested in helping plan. The VFW does a lot to help as well, and so we're able to kind of get their help, but. It's, I kind of think it's gonna be a bigger event than previous years, given there's more Vietnam that era vets that are. So, and those Korean War era vets should be getting their invitations, specific invitations soon if they haven't already. Some of them are senior center. Yep. Okay. All right, I think that's it.
Thank you. Oh, housing representatives, I almost skipped right over you.
It's right to me.
Guys.
But-
I made a list of, I haven't been here since June, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this really quick. We got a new roof on our building, which is really wonderful. They were great doing it, they were like within a month, they did the whole building, they cleaned up really well. It's like they were never there, it's really wonderful. So that's all done. We have a new company for meals program. We're still having some issues. The cost is high, so we're trying to get our administrator and the cook to look into some resource to help cut the costs down somewhat. But there's a program there, and I forgot the name of it. If you qualify for that program, it does help with the cost, but not everybody there qualifies for it. So, again, we're trying to find another way to help the folks that are paying the regular cost right now. Let's see here. Rent rebate, you guys do that too. Yeah, we're doing that. We had somebody come Friday for private voting. So I did it, so I did my vote. So that's been good on Friday. Up in our library, we've had so many people over the years. We've had like a whole box of photos that, trips, activities, events, whatever. So we're trying to sort it all out and, who's who, because nobody kept track of who's in that photo. So I've been there a long time, another resident's been there a long time. So we've been going over the photos, trying to figure out who's who. Our program director, Dawn, who's been there 19 years. I gave her a bunch to go through, so she's been helpful with that. She has more at home. We said, this is too many. So, but we're also trying to create, also in the library, how Jennifer Hill Village got started, built, from the ground up and all that. There is a lot of information up there. We're just trying to organize it all. So, so people can come in and take a look at it. And I know people now outside of me and another resident don't know people 20, 30 years ago. But again, we're just trying to sort everything out. So everybody have an idea of what's been happening over the years. New residents, we've had a lot of new residents. I've been there a long time. In the past year, unfortunately, we've lost quite a few. So right now, I believe all the apartments, I think except one are full again. So, so that's been ongoing. And the welcome committee has been, meeting these people, coming in, welcome them to the building, give them an idea of what we do. And then, try to get people involved in something, way to meet folks. So, but our two people that do that right now, unfortunately, one lady I just found out today is staying in a nursing home now. And the other lady went out last night in ambulance. So we're not sure what's gonna happen with that committee. But we have our own meeting tomorrow, veterans meeting, so we'll discuss on that, if it's gonna still function with these two ladies. One not coming back and one we're not sure about yet. So, but anyway, I was hoping you won't be here. Long story short, WRTD. I don't. You know, if y'all heard of their so-called changes. They're telling us one thing, we had Philip, came to us 2 months ago, had all these charts, all this information, all these changes. But the thing is, the only thing that changed that I can see is that the bus comes at 10:20 and then 10:40. The 8:30 bus and the 4:09 bus was gonna stop. Well, it hasn't stopped. So I'm like, okay. But they were gonna drop people off at Benton River Grill. Like if you wanna go to the mall, you have to walk to the mall. I'm like, are you kidding me? Or if you wanna go to Big Y, you gotta walk to the Big Y from Benton River Grill. So if you go into the mall, you're going down the sidewalk. And then at that light, there's no more sidewalk when you walk in
Right.
to go to the mall.
Sidewalk.
So you're walking with traffic.
Right.
So our officers wrote a letter to them explaining our concern that, you know, someone is gonna seriously get hurt. So we haven't heard back from them yet, and we are gonna discuss that again tomorrow. So when we come back to the next meeting, hopefully I'll have some more information on that.
Well, let
So.
me know if you don't hear anything too. I'll reach out to my contacts there.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I just cannot believe they approved something like that.
Mhm.
That is so dangerous. And I'm like, guys, listen to me. So, but so we're working on it. So, yes, we are. They're in the process of interviewing a new, social worker, because one, I don't know, whatever happened, he's not there anymore. So Heather's been doing all of us. So we're gonna, they're trying to interview folks, so hopefully they'll hire somebody soon. You know, to, be part of that. We just had a flu COVID shot, got mine, on Friday, so that's a good thing. Medicare open enrollment, that's gonna be happening now. We have somebody every other week coming for Tech Act from the Mansfield Library. Really needs help on their laptop, computer, smartphone. They have any questions? You know, he's helped me out, because finally I got a new smartphone, I got updated. So they've been very helpful, trying to help people with any problems or concerns they have with that. We've had UConn students back now, which is great. Monday through Friday helping us with activities, events are coming up, the holidays are coming up. So our program director is in the process of getting all this together and getting students to come and help out with that. Unfortunately, I missed this. We had a fire safety month in October. We had the fire department come out and, again, because we have a lot of new residents, help us, you know, what to do in the event of a fire, an emergency. So that's been, you know, trying to get people updated on that, so. So that's been hopefully be a good thing. Okay, I think, and also when I was here. When I was taking the senior van last couple weeks ago, I grabbed one of these. So I took some of these home to show those folks up there. Yeah, and I, you know, and I tell everybody with the Sparks, I encourage them always to look at the Sparks, you guys got a lot of good stuff in here.
And Amy is our new transportation
Yes, I met Amy.
coordinator, so
Yeah,
this has been updated with her name on it, but
Right.
the contact information, the phone number is still the same.
okay, great, that's good to know, okay, yeah, this is really good stuff. Okay, thank you, John,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right,
John, can I just make a comment?
Mhm.
It might be nice, if you haven't already, there's a new administrator at Mansfield Nursing and Rehab that was bought out by National. It might be nice to invite him to a meeting, just to have him either just to introduce himself, basically. You know, I think about what was just shared, you know, it'd be nice if he knew that community. but it's a new administrator and a new admissions person over there.
I'll mention that tomorrow in our meeting to everybody. Yeah, it's a good idea. Do you know the name of that person?
His name is Ryan, I believe, and her name is Patty in admissions.
Okay,
Nice young man, solid young man, and she's a good woman too.
okay, I'll mention that. Thank you.
Now, did that comment apply to Juniper Hill or to the COA in terms of inviting them?
Could go either way. I think it might be good to have him explain all the challenges that, with healthcare and kind of get a good understanding of what's going on in the healthcare world in terms of beds, Medicare, long-term, short-term. There's a lot going on in the world of healthcare right now.
COA.
So what's your feeling? Would that be a good?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have folks all the time going to the Mansfield Rehab. There are folks there now, so it's a good idea to have them come and meet us. To us about what's going on.
I agree that the Commission on Aging would be a good place for, because you represent everybody in Mansfield, you know.
Right,
no?
yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Does anybody have contact?
I could try and find out since we like for Juniper Hill Village to,
I could talk to Heather too, our social worker.
all right, we could,
Yeah.
wanna do that.
Okay, Martina, would you, if you could line up a meeting with the Commission on Aging? November, December,
Don't you think it would be one of our regular meetings?
November, December, right?
Martina, if you just send me an email, I can give you both. His name is Brian Harris. I can give you both Brian's contact information and Patty's contact information.
Thank you.
Yep.
okay, great. Membership update. The Committee on Committees asked to meet with me and Jessica was willing to come and I was very glad you were there. They basically just wanted to get an idea of what we did. And what we do so they could do a better job of picking committee members. I think they were planning to meet with Judith, but I haven't heard that she was appointed yet.
So it's my understanding that Judith rescinded her, I guess, I don't know, application, for lack of a better way to say it, to the committee for personal reasons. So I thought that you were on that.
I thought you were on that too.
Probably got tired of waiting for
But there was some personal things that came up for her, and so she is no longer able to do it. Oh, she went right to the Commission on Aging.
You know what, the emails.
Ah. So you did not get it.
I'll forward it.
It's not unheard of that it's buried in my inbox.
No,
No,
it's
no.
missing a Mansfield, it says Mansfield instead of Mansfield CT.
So, but she did, she withdrew her application a week or so ago. And so I don't know if we have anybody else that's interested at this point. She will still attend, I think, as a resident as she is able to, and still interested, but at this point in time, she can't make the commitment. Hi, you're here in person.
Oh, no.
What about the other announcement that we had?
Go back.
Right, sure, I know.
I know, I feel like they did request her to come in as well, her and him, I don't know who it was, to come in as well.
The other person.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can connect to them. So if there's any information we have, we can pass it along to Sarah Ann as well.
Just the Robert's Rules of Order that I don't know. While we're missing a committee member, does our quorum change? It doesn't in this case, because you can't have half a person, but
I don't know.
So my understanding, although this actually just came up in a different context recently, so I'm a little iffy on saying this out loud. My understanding has always been that quorum is determined based on 50% or more of what constitutes a full complement of the members that could be. Or should so it's like the town council, 9 members. So quorum is 5, not 50% or more of whoever's present. That's what my understanding always was, so. Somebody called this into question, I think it was a council meeting a week ago. Didn't end up mattering, so. My understanding has always been that it's based on 50% or more of the total membership, so if you had 5 members present of a 9-member body. You have to have 5 in support of something, but the vote you need to pass something is still, so that's my guidance.
thank you, so we're fine. Yeah, we're fine, it was,
Yeah.
came to my head and okay, what we had agreed to do is to suspend our agenda as soon as you got here.
You're up.
Well, so yeah, so I guess update on the municipal facilities master planning work. I can't remember the last time, I know there was a last time though that I came and addressed the commission on the work we're doing, so. I think a fair amount has happened since I was last before you on this front, so some of this may be very well known, but I'll recap it at least in broad strokes, so. After we worked with TSKP Studios, the architecture and design firm that helped us with what we kind of collectively call phase 1 of this planning effort, which was really a municipal facilities needs assessment study, looking at the programmatic needs of the buildings. There was time and attention paid to the physical condition of spaces, but that was less a focus. The focus was more on, setting aside the actual condition, does this layout make sense? Does this location make sense? How does the space meet or not meet current operating needs of the various departments, as well as the anticipated future needs of the departments? And so that was in contrast to a similar-ish study that was done with more of a conditions assessment focus, maybe 4 or 5 years earlier, so before my time. They really looked at the physical condition, kind of at the exclusion of what the intended purpose was. So we thought, well, we have a not that old conditions assessment, and we really need to figure out how the programmatic piece fits in, and then we can start, figuring out where we go from here. So after we did that phase 1 piece with TSKP, we ended up pivoting into community engagement work. We got a grant from the state Community Investment Fund, sometimes called CIF or CIF, about $250,000 to help with both community engagement as well as what is on the horizon, which is the sort of next level, more detailed conceptual design of either renovation of any existing spaces or proposed construction of new things. So the community engagement, community engagement work that was done over the last year or so. It was multifaceted. We worked with a firm called Civic Brand based in Colorado. We first got connected with Civic Brand through our Parks and Rec master plan process that was playing out sort of concurrently with all this. So they help communities and municipalities across the country basically engage their constituents and understand resident perspectives on things. And so it was multifaceted approach, everything from one-on-one stakeholder interviews to some web-based surveys to pop-up events. I think there were a half dozen or so pop-up events. And what a pop-up event basically is you try to catch people where they are already. So these events happen in places like Hops 44 and Dog Lane, where people might be coming just get a cup of coffee, and then you have like a little display set up, and you kind of bring them in and get their perspective. Then come there necessarily like with that plan in mind. It's just sort of, extemporaneous sort of feedback on things. And so the result of that phase of the community engagement work was the creation of a tool, a framework for helping us evaluate municipal facilities projects. It really was designed not to tell us this phase, not to tell us what project specifically we're doing, but to help us come up with what you might think of as like a scoring rubric or a tool to help us understand, okay, how do we evaluate different projects, knowing that we can't take on the cost necessarily of everything? And how well does each of these projects meet community needs and align with community values? And actually, incidentally, this firm, Civic Brand, we didn't know this until just recently, but I guess they submitted this tool that they developed specifically for our project. And there's a conference coming up, I believe it's next month in London, international conference, that I guess this tool is actually up for an award or recognition for innovation. So they're proud of what they helped us design, and we're certainly proud that we're gonna be able to use that here. It's gaining global recognition. So what I can say, bringing it back to the specific needs of seniors and senior center, is that while, again, decisions haven't been made and official recommendations haven't been presented to the council yet about specific projects that'll be prioritized or which would happen first, I can say that that's coming soon, but also that I cannot imagine a scenario where the senior center needs wouldn't be top of the list. It's almost I think an accepted given at this point based on past presentations and conversations we've had in the town council. We certainly have a number of needs. Town hall has needs, public works has needs, police or fire, and potentially police if we co-located them, have needs in terms of aging and outdated fire stations. But certainly not just public support for, but I think just universal recognition that this space, which, you know, got us to where we are and we're proud of what it's helped us to do, it's not going to be the vehicle for addressing and providing addressing needs of seniors and providing programs that meet the needs of seniors in the future indefinitely. It's kind of laid out in a funky way. It's a location in terms of the part of town makes good sense for a variety of reasons I'm sure you can all appreciate, but the actual parcel itself is not particularly workable. If you had everything about this was the same, but there was like, 5 more acres kind of around it, probably a totally different conversation, but it's a very tight site. The building and parking basically take up all of it, and so you're left with either trying to figure out how you renovate or reconstruct in place, which probably means you're moving everything out of this building and then coming back and doing the swing space a while, or where do we build something new, and then we move the programmatic functions out of this building into whatever the something new is. And so on that short list, but again, like no decisions have been made that this is specifically what we're doing, but one of the items or ideas that's in contention that seems to be gaining a lot of traction and interest would be a addition and sort of a redesign of the community center to make the community center truly a multi-generational or intergenerational facility. So don't think of it just in terms of, okay, you have the community center in terms of everything that that facility is, and we're just sort of adding a senior center onto it. It really would, and I'm not an architect, but what we're thinking about is how do we potentially redesign that space to be integrated so that it's not a senior center that just shares a wall with like a health and wellness center, but a multi-generational facility that all of the space is kind of open to people of all ages. Logically, there could be specific spaces within a structure like that that had very much a senior focus. But that's a model that you see in a lot of communities. We have a community center by name. I would argue we don't have a community center truly by function. We have a health and wellness center, and we have a senior center here. But really, in my mind, at least based on other towns and facilities I'm familiar with, typically when you call something a community center, it's kind of like what Wyndham just built, right? Although it's brand or whatever that we have, but it's that integrated kind of multi-age space. And so, I mean, I guess depending on how you look at it, I'd like to say I'm coming here with good news in the sense that the needs, present and future needs of seniors, especially given that it's a growing, portion of our population. I think to a person, certainly everyone with the council recognizes the tremendous importance. I know things never progress, you know, in sort of planning phases as fast as we'd all like. These are things move at a certain pace, and that pace is not rapid, but we do have continued progress. And of all the needs I alluded to, all the needs of the town, facility needs of the town. Right now, I guess anything subject to change and feedback from the council, but right now I don't see any that there's any writing on the wall that would be sort of jumping the line in terms of senior center or senior center function needs. So I'm continuing to be optimistic that we will move forward at a pace that allows us, once the council weighs in on recommendations, to have a bond referendum of some sort a year from November, so November of 25. It's either gonna be November 25 or November 26. There's certain conventional wisdom, I guess, that would argue for November 26, because even year elections, whether they're presidential elections or midterm elections, they just get much bigger turnout because there's more things to vote on. We weren't gonna be ready, we were never gonna be ready for this November, even a year ago. I'm still hoping that 25 will be the ticket. We had 2 bond referendums on odd number years in recent years, including the new elementary school. It's a little bit of the Wayback Machine, but it was also an odd number year when the community center bond referendum was voted on. So we have precedent of odd number of years having enough voters mobilized, because by charter, there's a percentage, you know, even if you get a majority of people supporting it, I'm trying to remember the percentage, I think it's 15% or something of registered voters have to cast a ballot in order to be like a critical mass that the vote counts. So we want to make sure that happens. So yeah, I guess in broad strokes, I would, you know, kind of stop there, other than to say there will absolutely be in the coming months more opportunities as we rev up for additional community engagement work, more opportunities for what we folks here, but residents of all persuasions to weigh in on community facility needs, including senior center needs. But it really is top of the list, and I think it's exciting. I think personally, obviously, if there's feedback here to the contrary, I want to hear it, but I think there seems to be a lot of interest in this concept I've described of a multi-generational facility to kind of bring people from all ages and walks of life kind of together. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at.
Have they taken traffic into consideration for all this?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done I guess, a traffic study. This quarter, South Eagleville Road is being redesigned as part of a Eagleville Green project. There's a whole boulevard concept, traffic calming, that's gonna be going in as part of that. I can say there's only been, at this point, what I would describe as sort of anecdotal conversations with Public Works and our engineering staff about the long-term traffic implications on this route in the context of some of these projects we're talking about. Because there's also, as folks are maybe aware, although it's kind of in limbo at the moment, but UConn has its plans to build, redesign, redevelop the old Mansfield Apartments property, which that project, again, I think the future's kind of murky. At one point, it was going to be 900 beds. Then I heard if anything happens, it's going to be 700 some beds, because when they put out the bid, the cost was too much. So I think they're still thinking 700 plus residents, across the street from town hall. And so that doesn't negate like the impacts that what I'm describing in terms of the community center, what we need to think about for traffic. But all that to say, when you think about all the additional demands on traffic and impacts for this quarter, I think this would be relatively nominal compared to some of the other major changes.
I mean, it's disaster now, town is traveling in town.
Like this, are you talking about specific?
Yeah, I mean, from
in general, but
Yeah, from 3:30 to 5 or 6 with the buses.
yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
With the roads, because
So-
I take the bus, I live in Jumperville Village. I take the bus uptown to do my thing, but I like to walk home, it's all sidewalk.
Yeah.
But I couldn't last week because they were working both sides of the road, then everything blocked off.
So the impacts that you're seeing, I mean, aside from like. The construction's happening on the site, the impacts that you're seeing along 275 right now are Connecticut Water Company's. Yeah, the disruption from the water main work that's going in.
How far down the road are they going with that?
The water-
Because they seem to keep moving further down the road.
Yeah, I guess I've talked to our public in terms of where, what the system has been extended to. I guess I haven't seen a map of that. What I was gonna say though, as far as the boulevard piece, which also is gonna include some upgrades to, the sidewalks on this stretch, that's basically, barring delays, planned for next summer.
So that's still gonna be ongoing for a while yet.
Yeah, so, kind of quiet down once Connecticut Water Company's done with their project, and then next year, kind of gearing up for like a pretty significant redesign of that whole section to promote pedestrian safety
Yeah.
and walkability.
Is there a light gonna go in there? Everybody keeps asking, there's to be some kind of light here to control traffic, once it's all done and done.
Yeah, I think, there's been a lot of concepts thrown about, a lot of, definitely recognition that pedestrian safety, crosswalk safety, walkability. There were a number of recommendations that came out from a public safety audit a year or so ago. I'll check the status. I believe that there were plans for additional, what's called RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. There continues to be interest, although I know that this can be a politically charged thing to bring up, but separatists and Maplewood continues to be discussion about a roundabout there. DOT is very supportive of roundabouts now, although they're not very supportive of funding roundabouts. So they want to see everybody do roundabouts, there's just no money that seemingly help you with that. So, but let me check with Public Works and see if I can get some more information about some of the timeline for some of the other pedestrian safety features you might be interested in.
A year ago, it seemed like they were getting ready, they poured cement and dug across the road. This is Separatist in South Eagleville. And the gossip was there was gonna be a traffic light there.
Yep, and I think at least at a minimum, I don't know if I call it a stopgap, but I think realistically, even if a redesign of that intersection happened, we're talking. I don't want to say redesign, I mean like a roundabout style redesign. There are other intersections that are higher on a priority list, so whether or not that ever became a roundabout, I think it's many years out there. Yeah, the DOT did authorize or did approve new signalization at that intersection, and to be honest, I guess I just don't know that I've received an update on when, like the timeline for that, but my understanding is that is still the plan to move forward with that, so I can also check with DPW on that to see if we have a time frame. I can share that out through staff, this commission.
Where are they putting all these cars?
All the cars, which,
From any development, new development, 900 more?
well, that was the original, yeah, it was scaled back to, I think, 700 something,
Still.
so, yeah.
I mean, this town can't accommodate that kind of traffic. What plans is it to make people safe?
Well, so in terms of like,
You got kids now weaving in and out with scooters and it's ridiculous.
well, and it's funny you bring that up because I guess that is, so there's. The way people move about, preferred means of doing that has changed a lot in recent years, and I know. So when UConn talks about it, and obviously I don't work at UConn, but we interface closely with these folks. They share their own sort of. Approach to parking planning and transportation planning, what assumptions they're using about the demand and need for cars versus. Bikes, e-bikes, scooters, etc. Because while we're still very much a car dependent, just in general, the way that people try to get on campus seems to be shifting, but those same folks still need parking for their car when they go home on the weekends or whatever, so. I guess all I can say is that, I guess there's a couple ways to look at the impacts on our roads in terms of traffic. There's the sort of, you know, you or I were in our car and it feels like there's a lot going on and it feels like, wow, how much more can this road take? And then there's one engineer that does a multi-week, multi-month traffic study will say about, and throw out numbers about daily averages and that sort of thing. It all seems like well within capacity. In fact, it could accommodate, you know, you could build you know, tongue in cheek here, but you know, build a sports arena, build this, but there's tons of capacity. So in the moment when it's kind of bottlenecked and there's school buses and this and that, and it's parents' weekend and whatever, I hear you, I do. I'm not making light of it, but I think,
I mean, then they put those stupid signs up saying local traffic only. What good does that do?
kind of each of us, that's what.
On the main drag, they blink the stupid sign that, you know, only local traffic. What is supposed to that's supposed to mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think in general, that's parlance for, trying to avoid, when people are coming to and from,
And the
campus or meetings.
the scooters are ridiculous. They weave in and out. I mean, it's
different
dangerous.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Or how you,
You
right,
can't
how you
use
use,
just
right, how,
because they do it.
yeah, how you use, yeah, I mean, there are upsides in the sense that they take up a lot less space and that sort of thing than a car would, but there's its own sort of safety dimension.
And they don't wear helmets, they don't have any gear at night. I mean, the back roads, I live not far from campus, I almost killed a kid coming out of my driveway.
Yeah, well, obviously when people are out at night, and Yukon, I think, I heard and then saw. They're putting out messaging, I think, trying to make sure, you know. Pedestrian people on bikes, and basically anybody out of a car that. In the evening, you know, make yourself conspicuous, reflective gear, because people do have a tendency to blend in the dark and that's it.
So, I have a question.
I've noticed that the scooters are using the main roads just like the bikes do. Is that legal? Cause sometimes when I've been driving, I thought I was gonna hit them because they're that close. They're that scrunched in.
I mean, I guess my operating understanding is yes, I can verify that. Certainly having spent some time with just recently, you know, you go to conferences in metropolitan areas where at night you see people on scooters like on, well, not the highway, but you know, certainly well trafficked, you know, urban downtown roads. So we were just in Pittsburgh and so saw that happening in Austin the year before, but I'll check with our state police in terms of, you know, Connecticut state law and 195 in particular.
And I have a question
That's
about
what we should have. The police department come and speak to us about these things.
that's,
I
we
mean,
can talk about that.
they should have.
So I wanna,
Because these kids
I have
are
a
not
question.
country roads.
I have a question about the bond referendum
Yeah.
before I forget it, please. So I know you're talking about 25 or 26, but my question is, what will the bond, because I know you're busy working on it. What will it look like and will it incorporate everything that has to go on in town, or are we doing bits and
Yeah,
pieces,
so
or?
great question. So one thing I didn't mention that I should have also mentioned that's kind of also part of what's going on is continuing to look for external funding opportunities. We're not gonna find, we don't have any programs, at least that currently exist, that like the Office of School Construction grants would allow us to do a project that's like 60+% covered by a state grant program. There's just not a corresponding, unless something changes overnight, there's nothing that exists that again, like call it north of half of a project would be funded by or for whether it's senior center, town hall, fire station, whatever. So the reality is anything we put forward, while there are grants that could help us in a significant way, including the same grant that gave us this planning assistance, $250,000 I described as community investment fund. There have been awards made to municipalities that are, you know, in the $10 million range, which is nothing to sneeze at. But I am here to tell you that unfortunately $10 million doesn't buy as much as it used to. You know, that might get you like for this community center, senior center concept I'm describing, that might get you a third of the way there, but that's probably a $30 million. And so. Even though we'd like to think that surely $10 million is enough, but that's a lot of, it is a lot of money, it's not enough. So continuing to explore other grants that we can pair with, any bond funding. But to your question about would it be everything, again, no decisions have been made, so I don't want to get in front of the council and say, well, this is what it will be or won't be. What I can say is, I don't think it's likely, just because of the sheer price tag that everything would be. We're literally talking about, could be approaching $150 million if we did everything.
Which we have to do eventually anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, have to, but yeah, I mean. Everything has needs.
Right.
To what extent it does all get addressed, what time frame, and to what extent, those are debatable questions, but. Well, maybe we could argue that, oh, no, this is perfect and that's perfect and we don't really have to. It really is, yeah, time and extent and level of investment. So whether the council wants to, ultimately bite a bigger bullet, so to speak, and do more versus, well. These are priority projects and we think that we want to approach this with, this, then this over whatever. Those are the types of decisions that still have to be made. My suspicion is that it will be more the latter, that it'll be, well, as a, for instance, something that could be packaged, two facilities, but it's at least one property would be something with the community center and the town hall, sort of a redevelopment of that whole parcel. Because if you're gonna just start carrying out parking lot and that sort of stuff to accommodate a community center, addition and redesign. Would be advantageous, we'll put it that way, if you're gonna do something with town hall eventually. Why not do this once and kind of have all that disruption happen once, so it's not piecemeal? Clearly, it's a different set of considerations when you're talking about public works or fire stations, because they're about different locations, but yeah, no, there's not gonna be any easy decisions. It's gonna require real investment. We do have the benefit. Just if we're talking about all these projects that are coming online and kind of traffic and that sort of thing. But notwithstanding any project that UConn builds, although we do get some financial considerations with that for pilot payments. But the private developments that you're seeing, the standard corners and other ones that are expected to come online here in the next couple of years. Major influx of new tax revenue, which would hopefully more or less, if not entirely, negate any additional debt service payment you would have. Because the new revenues, people wouldn't feel it in their taxes so much. That's certainly the hope.
So you would have to educate
Well,
the
yeah,
community about.
public education, top to bottom, starting with. What is the baseline, what do we have? Because the reality is that unless, like using this facility, right, I mean. If you're a senior that uses it regularly, and you come here for different programs, you've been coming for years, you have a pretty good sense of what the needs are, what the limitations are. But, if you're not somebody like that, you might live in town for 20, 30, 40 years, and you've never come through the door, and so you drive by and look, seems kind of fine from the, other communities don't even have a senior center, so we can't be that bad. But so first you guys start with, okay, well, what are the needs, what are the limitations, what are the challenges? But yeah, certainly in terms of what we're looking to do, why we're looking to do that, what the cost would be, what other funds are bringing to bear, what the likely end of the day, impact on your tax dollars would be based on other projections, because this isn't happening in the vacuum, it could be happening during a time bringing new and robust sources of new revenue, coming online. So yeah, education and we're connecting all those dots between now and, months before any potential bond referendum happen, those people are things.
They ever think of moving Eelsmith?
I know that obviously it was before my time. I know that there was a push in certain people in key positions, I guess, looking to relocate it to the depot campus. Right. Basically arranged to work out with UConn, and that did not happen. All I can say is talking with the current leadership, superintendent and others over there, while they recognize that the physical plant, the building itself, has some issues that are not going away, will require major investment to address. does not sound like they are planning any changes, that there's, I think in particular, what I hear come up a lot, the open campus, the ability for kids to go across the street, yeah, that's sort of such a part of the culture and the experience, and so that's their sort of assessment at this point, that they want to stay there. They are talking with the town about, as far as their alternative education programs that are not part of the Smith building. Us in Region 19, we're talking about ways that they might be able to do that long term. Do that a long-term way on the property the town owns right now, the Minton school property, which obviously we're not using as a school.
Wasn't the tech school, Wyndham Tech supposed to go with the prisoners?
Yes, and that is still, although there's no new updates. According to UConn, that's every expectation is that's still going to happen. It's just.
The state owns that property.
Right, so they're trying to transfer, right, so it's owned by UConn. UConn would be transferring ownership to the state board of education. And I think the expectation is that probably in a matter of weeks or months, that will actually be finalized eventually, and then I guess.
So nothing's happened right now.
No, but it's also, I guess, not happening, if that makes sense. The vision is still, I've heard, in under 5 years. To have a fully completed, open for operation, new Wyndham Tech on that property. So whatever fall that puts us in, that's what they keep saying. So we'll see.
Everything's talked about, but nothing's ever done.
Well, but nothing's.
Come on, Joanne. Takes a while.
So is, I have two questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Is the piece across from the community center being developed by a private developer or the state?
So the Mansfield Apartments, which was what 1950s era brick buildings that have been demolished, that property is owned by UConn, and barring UConn changing its plans, if they move forward with some variation of the vision that they had for residence halls, it would be a UConn project, UConn owned residence halls and operated by UConn. Basically the same way they operate any other residence halls, just a little bit different in the sense that it's obviously physically disjointed across the street as opposed to like part of the core campus. So basically it would just be UConn residence halls.
Is it specified for grad students or it doesn't matter?
No, I believe, again, I think they have been revisiting maybe the original plans. So this may too have been something that's changed. But I believe that essentially the likely residents there would be undergraduates based on what you kind of previously said, at least when they were talking about 900 some beds. So I have no reason to think, although this could have happened, but I have no reason to think based on the information we've been provided that when they started talking about scaling back the size to be 700 some beds, that part of that was also changing up who they plan to have live there. So I think it's very much undergraduates and not graduate students with families or anything like that.
Do they have, or do you know roughly when they expect to complete the apartments on 275 South Eagleville and the other apartments on 195, the old Holiday Mall?
Yeah, so the Eagleville Green project right next door, we actually just toured Congressman Courtney this past Friday, both projects you referenced. So there's the optimistic, I'll say, outlook that people associate with the project next door, you'll hear them say, and then there's what my own like building officials will tell me about what they think is, they do not line up. You know, one audience might say, you know, next month, another's, yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be in 25, some to be determined. So, I mean, clearly there's a lot of work that's happened. There's been some doubling back, like with any large project, some rework that has to happen for code and that sort of thing. So it's clearly getting closer, it is progressing. But I think it's some months. I don't think it's some weeks before. Because I was talking about opening, you know, like one building at a time, but it's really one project site, and there, when you have heavy equipment and active work going on, just for everybody's safety, it's not really lending itself, even if the interior finishings of a particular building would allow somebody to move in. It's just not typically the way that we sort of permit projects. It's, the project is the whole site, so I think ultimately, although not ruled out, I think less likely that they would be giving a certificate of occupancy, you know, this building while this building's still being worked on and that sort of thing. So we'll say probably, fingers crossed, maybe early 25. Maybe there's a scenario where somehow it gets a CO before the end of 24. But not tomorrow. And then the standard Four Corners on 195 that you asked about. That project, the targeted completion for getting a certificate of occupancy in hand has not changed since the start of the project, although I do believe that their buffer, their cushion has largely been eliminated. They're still saying June timeframe of 25 with first occupancy, first leases. They've been saying August 15th of 25. So again, largely expect that the folks that are going to be living there will be students, and they want to obviously have living arrangements, space available for people to move in and sign leases before the start of the next academic year. But they did say on the site visit that regardless, since not everybody who lives there will necessarily be a student, that none of the leases, whether they're student or otherwise, nobody's moving in before August 15th. That's what they said to those in attendance on Friday. So people living there no earlier than, although they're also saying no later than August 15th. Project being fully permitted, done, paint's dried, all that a few months before then. That's their goal.
And is there any transportation to get those people to campus?
So yeah, WRTD is adjusted, will be adjusting their routes to accommodate. And then also, one of the things that we've been working with Congressman Courtney on, although even if we got the funding, we've been at this for a while, it's certainly nothing that happens overnight. But we were trying to, we've got $1 million already. We're trying to get a couple million more, because that's what's going to cost, to build a multi-use trail that runs parallel to 195 on, I guess, what amounts to the western and southwestern side of the road, basically the Mansfield Supply side of the road, to connect the Four Corners all the way down to Tower Loop Road by Horse Barn Hill. Because even before you have, I think it's 800 some beds, 800 some people living at the standard, we already have frankly unsafe situations happening during daytime hours sometimes, but mostly in after hours when you have large concentrations of kids that are having a good time looking to walk from A to B. They're walking on the shoulder and they're straying across the white line. It's a recipe for not good things to happen, so we really want to get those people out of it.
More people with kids we have in here. I mean, the other 2 weeks ago, Hunting Lodge and South Icklebell, there was over 200 kids. And 2 cops. They were all over your car. I was trying to take a left because I live at the other end, but you couldn't move. And how could 2 cops take care of that?
Well, the law enforcement situation, I guess one other quick update. So the council, through our normal budget process for the new fiscal year, the fiscal year that started July 1st, we budgeted for and then subsequently requested additional trooper staffing. And unfortunately, this is the first time I believe that this has happened. The state police has declined our request. We need to have a meeting and better understand their rationale and when figure out if this is a short-term denial or longer term than we want to believe or hope it will be. But I think law enforcement across the board, they're just having their own recruitment challenges. And so from a people power standpoint, we've heard that they don't have the capacity to give us another trooper, because the plan had been to add staff, each of the next 3 years in kind of a phased way, and so of course. If you don't get the additional staff you requested in year one of a 3-year increase in staffing plan, doesn't bode well for year 2 and 3. That's sort of basic
Who's
logic.
responsible? State, federal, who's responsible for hunting wildlife of people?
So there's
Anytime
not-
I ask a question, they go, that's not our responsibility.
So off campus, the primary, there's mutual aid and helping across agencies always going on. But off campus is Connecticut State Police. Again, not to say that Yukon police wouldn't help if something was needed. But really, so as an example, it's off campus, but it's sort of immediately like off campus, right? The area, King Hill Road area, which is another spot where potential large future development, which has been permitted, could be happening. But that area, like we'll say Ted's, so obviously it's a popular bar scene, but it's off campus, but it's like, it feels like they're on campus, it's right there. And on top of that, Yukon Public Safety, Police and Fire, they're literally across the road.
Yes,
So they could,
spit on it.
take a sand wedge and get a golf ball to the roof there at that end. So what'll happen
Yes.
what'll happen is if they're aware that there's an issue, the call comes in, because they are physically right there. They will almost assuredly, unless one of our troopers happens to just be out cruising, they're like right there when it happens. They'll get there first, so they kind of like hold down the scene, kind of help de-escalate things until state police arrive and they hand it over.
It was ridiculous, 2 cops, and they were all over your car, you couldn't move. It was insane.
This was a daytime party? Or what?
This, yeah, it was right at the end of hunting lodge.
Yeah, I know that our, so we have a new, well, he was our sergeant, our resident trooper supervisor for a year or so, then he left, he went to one of the troop, barracks, and he's now back, but Sergeant King, since he started in, I guess it was July, they've been issuing, we'll just say many orders of magnitude more nuisance violations, so we're hopeful that, as word gets out amongst the student population, this is happening at all hours, but dozens of
This
these
is
have been
midday,
issued.
midday.
Yeah. So I suspect if there was law enforcement there, I could certainly ask the sergeant about that particular one.
Like a couple weeks ago. and
Right, but if it's the same thing, by the time I got there, the Yukon police were trying to direct the students to wait for people, for our cars to all get out and make that turn to go.
And was it actually just, if you saw a marked vehicle, was it Yukon police? that
Yeah,
were-
just they're,
It was not.
they're SUV, but the police there were 2 police
There was
cars
only
there,
2.
yeah. There were
All
the
these
female.
kids.
But this was not off-campus, private.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hunting lodge in North Liverpool Road, and they were just formed the students. So the Yukon police did come and try to stop traffic. So that, stop them so traffic could come
And
through.
people were gathered at a party kind of
Oh, they
split
were
on the road,
they
or
were-
They
they,
were up
they were-
on the hill.
they were-
but they were, sometimes you see like something
I
on their,
graduated from Yukon.
lets out
so
and
I
they
know
all
how that
made
is.
together.
They watching
They
somewhere?
Yeah.
were all
Going-
walking, they were all walking from and to parties,
Okay.
which happens.
but it wasn't a
They were-
situation where like a large group, like everybody kind of left a venue, we'll say, together, and they were all on the road
No,
together.
no, they were just.
They were all
Hunting
familiar.
lodge. They were- But the Yukon police did get there,
Okay,
finally started.
well, this is like 2 weeks ago, you said?
Yeah, a couple
Yeah.
of months ago.
Was a Saturday. wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Sergeant King, do we think 2 weeks from this past Saturday, or a week ago Saturday?
No,
Oh,
2 weeks.
Couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. It was insane.
Yeah, well, warmer weather, yeah.
Yeah.
And so-
Mention
Listen,
that
you not have responsibility.
This was the.
They push those kids into our community. And then
Gonna be-
they could do whatever they want because it's not campus.
So Yukon, when kids are living off campus, Yukon's jurisdictional responsibility sort of ceases unless their assistance is requested by our troopers. So that, I guess I'm saying is they don't like proactively canvas off-campus neighborhoods, because that would be seen as like an overreach on their jurisdiction. I do think that I'll just say that there are continue to be discussions going on, have been going on, will continue to go on with UConn about sort of to what you're alluding to. UConn's role, responsibility, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to off-campus activity. You know, there's a spectrum of viewpoints here. I mean, certainly one viewpoint, it's not one that I particularly agree with. I'm not saying many would argue it, but one view we've heard is, you know, well, once they're off campus, they live off campus. The fact that they're a UConn student, yeah, they have, there could be implications for them. Their standing as a student if they engage in behavior, conduct off campus. UConn has a whole process for addressing that, but when it comes to just sort of, you know, law enforcement response, addressing it in the moment. You know, one viewpoint we've heard is that's absolutely the town's responsibility, they're not on campus. And then I think there's another side of it as well. They're UConn students, you kind of own them regardless of where they are, right? And so, I don't want to say, I mean, we're in a good situation right now in terms of the tenor of the relationship with UConn. I think that there's always room for improvement. They probably would say the same thing in terms of what some of the stuff the town brings to the equation, but I think that certainly as more of these larger developments off campus
It
developments.
shouldn't be dumped on our town.
So the importance of getting on the same page is only gonna be more important, as there's more and more kids living off campus. For a long time, there've been a lot of kids living off campus, but certainly the projections where things are going in terms of these new developments that are being built, and UConn's percentage of students living off campus increasing. One way or the other, whether it's through a collaborative effort with UConn or the town's resources and investment, there's going to be a need for a substantial increased investment in public safety. To address this.
It's getting bigger and bigger. And I mean, I felt sorry for these two cops. There were hundreds of kids and they were all over our cars. You couldn't move. They were climbing over your cars and everything. That's a safety issue.
Based on what you described, you would agree.
You're great.
Well, I'm glad they were there. I mean, when I came,
I
I was
do,
glad
but what
there
can
was
some
some help.
cops do with hundreds of kids who are drunk?
Yeah, it's, I mean, I hear what you're saying, I sort of. The optics, I would probably reach a similar conclusion. I would say, having watched a couple daytime parties get broken up with hundreds of people. It's amazing what two law enforcement officials
I
can do
feel
to
sorry
help
for
things
the
along.
cops.
Yeah.
And, we were right there at that corner, and we wanted to go left, because I live at the end of the street, but we couldn't move. And they were climbing all over your cars and everything, and it's a safety issue.
Well, it is, I think it remains to be seen what the actual impact or relief or whatever you want to call it ends up being. But as like the standard and projects like that, these large scale multifamily developments that have been planned and approved, as they come online, it will be interesting to see. Well, basically of the student population, who decides to live there, right? Are they going to be primarily, the people living there primarily those that would have lived on campus, like they would live in a dorm, and so now they're really just off campus? Or are they gonna be largely pulling from the neighborhoods, people that otherwise rent a single family home that now decide, oh, I'm gonna go live in this new development with all sorts of amenities, in which case some of the, again, pressure, whatever you want to describe, however you want to describe it, the demand, we'll say, from the student population to live in homes, homes being rented in off-campus areas like you're describing in Honey Lodge, if some of that pendulum swings back and non-students, families with kids, whoever, can sort of start to bit by bit repopulate some of these areas that certainly over the last couple of generations.
Why can't we put regulations on the absentee landlords in these houses? That they have to evict those kids when they do something like this, automatically get evicted.
Yeah, well, it's rental law and, yeah.
You're not the behavior police.
Yeah, we're not, we're just,
Can we focus on aging?
yes, thank you.
I'm
We're
sorry.
getting- yeah.
Our town was giving.
We all understand this, Joanne, I'm not putting you down for this, because we all understand it, we all have to deal with it, but this is the Commission on Aging.
And you do have Ryan here, so. if
Yeah.
there are Other questions.
You can't solve everything, just because Ryan's.
All
All right, John has the floor, John has the floor.
You mentioned almost in passing that one of the thoughts was a multi-generational facility. Are you thinking something more like Willimantic, where there still is a senior center entrance that says senior center, or totally integration?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so the short answer is I don't know. Certainly haven't gotten to the level of, you know, what entrances and signage and all that would look like. I guess what I'm efforting to say is, and this was a scheme that was, you know, looked at with the first architect that we brought in, TSKP, this notion of, without having the details yet about how internal space could be reworked to accommodate this, that with the addition, you know, some substantial addition built onto the community center, that the net square footage you would have, the existing square footage paired with additional square footage that you built on, that there would be any number of ways that could be integrated to allow for what would be a multi-generational space. So I guess, well, again, nothing's been decided, including whether or not that would even be the top priority that emerges. I frankly don't see a likely final product, we'll call it, that would be, you have the community center basically as is, and you just sort of almost like a duplex style, right? You build a senior center onto it, and then you have like two buildings that share a wall. I think the idea is, or some of the excitement is, that you actually would rework the space to create one sort of seamless facility that feels like one facility, accommodating the needs of people at all ages. Now, that doesn't again mean that there wouldn't be some specific spaces that would be, say, more or less used by seniors, but that rather than have basically two facilities that share a wall, that you come up with some level of, you know, reworked or integrated building. That doesn't mean there couldn't be two entrances, but you know, those are definitely future decisions for an architect to advise us on. But I think a lot of communities that have the sort of space I'm describing have designed it in an intentional way so that it feels like one multi-generational facility, as opposed to, you know, a health and wellness facility that's sort of multi-generational, and then a senior center sort of offshoot, I think. But this is, you know, as I said, if we're getting feedback from the community that strongly wants it a different way, that's why we're asking the questions, so. We'll be responsive to that.
Students get to vote on this?
Registered voters in Mansfield, of which, you know, some percentage of UConn students are in fact registered voters in Mansfield, and will be voting starting today, early voting, which there's 2 locations,
Do we
including
know what that
on
percentage
campus.
is?
I
Roughly,
don't have those, yeah, in terms of, registrars might have said this out loud at some point, but if they did, I know that during the last midterms, there were something like 8,500 registered voters in town. What I don't know is if they've shared stats on, of the UConn students that are registered to vote, wherever they're registered to vote, what percentage register to vote here versus keep their registration wherever home is. Basically, they have the option of doing either. So I
And now they have voting machines on campus.
oh boy,
Yep, so starting today's the first day of about 2 weeks of early voting, the UConn bookstore. It's not just for the students, though, anybody, any registered voter in Mansfield can
but
vote.
I have not put in UConn.
All right, other questions?
Parking for that, if they do that as a community thing. Are they gonna put a parking garage?
I'm sorry, parking for that is.
Parking garage, how are they?
If they do the multi-generational thing you're talking about,
Oh.
or actually community center.
Yeah, so all I can say is that parking needs would absolutely, anytime you look at a redevelopment of a parcel. There would be a, you know, traffic study, parking study component. Whether or not there ultimately would be believed to be a need for a garage or something, you know, we're just nowhere near there. What I can say is that, just to point out the obvious, that if the parcel were to be redesigned, inclusive of the town hall piece. If something for town hall was developed that was more vertical in nature, so a smaller footprint, the whole area that a not ginormous, but a large one-story former grammar school takes up. That could be surface parking, that could be redeveloped in green space, it could be, so people with training in engineering and architecture, landscape architecture and all that would need to weigh in on what all the possibilities are and whether or not you need some sort of multi-tiered parking, or there could be something else worked out, but what I can say is nothing would be done without like, okay, we never thought about parking. It'd definitely be very intensely looked at.
Other questions for Ryan?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know, the feedback, you know, again, hopefully here soon will be, you know, in a more public facing way, revving up or ramping back up community engagement efforts, but. You know, at any point, you know, your feedback as commission members and as members of the public, very valued on this front, so. Don't hesitate to reach out, whether you have feedback or you just have questions about where we're at in the process. I want to hear from you, but thanks for the opportunity and the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, I.
So normally you're such a wallflower.
Drop in anytime. We'll always have more questions.
Okay, we just have a couple items left on the agenda.
Sorry, Joe. I don't understand.
I did give you an update on the committee on committees and where we are with new members, basically nowhere. The report to the town council. I noticed from the minutes that it's was not planned, but David Stevens and Martina were the two absent members, and they got
that.
You were voted on when you were.
Not perfect.
But that seems to be under control in terms of having our report together. Would you be willing to make sure we get put before the town council
November what?
November meeting?
There's two on this one, you know?
Either one. Even though we're a little flexible.
I'll take him today. Let's see if you get on it.
Other items,
Think we covered it all, right?
okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Anybody wants that? Thank you all.